Good morning, friends. Hello, hello. Hope you're having a beautiful day. It is a fantastic 66 degrees, a little overcast, but beautiful outside today. And it has been an eventful day here at First Congregational Church. We've been all kinds of shenanigans going on today. Our our halon system on our stove went off at about 2 in the morning. So our faithful sexton Henry's been contending with that. We've had all manner of shenanigans happening these days. So such as it is. Good morning, Donna. How are you? Karen, good morning. Hope you're great. Have a good day. Morning, everybody. Good morning, friends. Doing all right. Hello. Hope everybody's doing all right. Ugh. Water guys, bacteria in the well. Well, that's that some of that's not so bad. So some of that could be horrible depending on what it is. I've had it in our well. We had to put a treatment system on for the longest time, but some of them just aren't that bad. But yeah, that's a holy moly, you know, always an adventure. Been crying with Severe Mercy. Oh, I'm so glad that Severe Mercy is touching you. If you haven't had a chance to read Severe Mercy, I hope you enjoy it. Recommend it highly. It's a real great and beautiful book. Good morning, Yvette. Hope glad you're here. Sharon, I'm glad you're here. Irene, hello. Good morning. I'm glad you're with us. Awesome. So, good morning, Jane. I'm glad. I really am glad that Severe Mercy is speaking to you. I thought it might. All right. Good morning, friends. Let's get going this morning. It is the 7th day of November here at 11:11, and I'm glad you're with us and glad you're a part of the journey. That this morning we approach Veterans Day. I know it's a few days away, but I will not get the opportunity to see you between now and then in terms or be a part of this. So I wanted to spend a little time as we kind of get ready for Veterans Day weekend this weekend. That we have in this on the Veterans Day is on the 11th. Our parade and all of the things happening here in the city will be happening on the 11th, as long as it doesn't get rained out. Personally, myself, I will be doing a 22-mile ruck march on Veterans Day. I'm doing it as a fundraiser for with a group called Rucking for Veterans. They have chosen 22 miles because of the fact that 22 veterans a day commit suicide, and so as a result of their desire, and that their great effort is to prevent veterans from taking their own life, and so we're doing a 22-mile road march to with rucksack, and I was out this morning, saw the sunrise. I've been training up for it, so I think we'll be okay. Hopefully, pray for me. But we'll have. But the so part of that is it is often that I've been a part of the scene here in the city of offering prayers at different memorials, and but this year I felt called to do a little more or just do something different. And so I'll be there. I think we kick off at about 7:30 in the morning on Veterans Day. That and I wanted to. So if you don't know, I have spent I spent 26 years in the Army Reserve. I was deployed as an Army chaplain all over the world, in different places. I spent a tour in Iraq. And so this not only community speaks to me, but it is my community and my walk as well. And I wanted to offer us this morning just a few things as we think about Veterans Day. First, kind of the reminder of what it is that, there's Memorial Day, which is the memory of those who died in service, that we might and that gave their, as Lincoln would say, the last full measure of devotion to their nation. But Veterans Day is this time in which we offer up the honors to those who did in fact serve, those who stood a post, those who served the nation, and in whatever form as in the armed services. It was founded, as you may know, on November 11th at 11 o'clock in the morning, at 11 o'clock on the 11th hour of the 11th minute of 11 seconds, that the time that the end of World War I, the armistice was signed and the guns went silent in what was really the humanity's first experience with wholesale slaughter throughout the globe. Certainly humanity has been going to war for a very long time, but up until that point we had not done it in a way that the entire globe was engaged. Even the time of Alexander, even the time of Genghis Khan, they still were not able to pull it off at a global level. Only we in the 20th century and into the 21st century can seem to step into such horrors. And so there is something, I think, in a way modern about this holiday, that it brings us to realize that it is not the wars of the ancients, but it is these wars that have reverberations to every peoples in all places around the world. It's one of, I think, in many ways, the first thing maybe we've ever done as a species, as a whole people in this world. Now we've obviously been, had the things of living and dying and all of the common parts of humanity, but to go to war as a whole world has been really reserved for us in only the past couple hundred years. And so I want to offer you a couple things this morning. First is the 144th Psalm of David, which it might surprise you, but it's an invitation for, well, maybe how we might hold this holiday, about maybe why I'm going to get up in the morning, and I'm really hoping it doesn't rain on Monday. Pray for that. Ruck marching's fun. It's a lot less fun in the rain. But we'll be there one way or the other. But how we are to keep this holiday, we often have this way in which there's a website you can go to for whatever. If you've served, you can get a free meal for the day. There is often the ubiquitous thank you for your service offerings from the wider community. There are parades and memorials, but all of those are, I think, in some ways, they struggle to encounter the real meaning, or not even the real meaning, but the real purpose and its real effect that I think we would hope by setting this day apart as a people. And I think there's clues to it in the 144th Psalm. So David, probably one of the greatest warriors in the Bible. I think you can make that case. He spends really most of his time in service to God, on the battlefield. That's in some form or another. He begins his journey by his first call is to face Goliath on the field of battle against the Philistines. So if there's ever a guy who wrote a psalm about war, well, it's David. And this is his song. This is his song to God. I won't read the whole thing, but I will read a bit of it, because I want you to hear what unfolds in this. Because I think there is a way in which of how this begins with this entry into service, and it becomes these questions that arise in the middle of it, and then at the end is this new invitation of how we might be. And so, just hear the 140-foot Psalm of David. Praise be to the Lord, my rock, who trains my hands for war, my fingers for battle. He is my loving God and my fortress, my stronghold and my deliverer, my shield, in whom I take refuge, and who subdues people under me. Lord, what are human beings that you care for them? Mere mortals that you think of them. They are like breath, and their days are like a fleeting shadow. Part your heavens, Lord, and come down. Touch the mountains so that they smoke. Send forth lightning and scatter the enemy. Shoot your arrows and rout them out. Reach down your hand from on high. Deliver me and rescue me from the mighty waters, from the hands of foreigners, whose mouths are full of lies and whose right hands are deceitful. I will sing a new song to you, my God. On the 10-stringed lyre I will make music to you, to the one who gives victory to kings and who delivers his servant David. We find ourselves, I think, in this little journey that is laid out in Psalms 144th Psalm. It's not even the whole psalm. Is, I think, in many ways a little bit a description of the warrior's journey. The praise be to God, to set out for war is to praise be to God, my rock, who trains my hands for war and my fingers for battle. And then this reliance upon God that can only come when one faces one's own mortality and the inevitable journey that happens with that. Who are we, human beings? We are like breath we encounter. I don't know if there's any warrior that has spent time in the encounter with battle that does not then somehow realize the fragility of life. And then the beseeching of God for help, that power and lightning may come to us who seek to survive these things and make power and righteousness or bring right onto the battlefield. And then this kind of inevitable encounter that with, well, deceitfulness or foreigners, as the Bible says, or the mouths full of lies, that somehow, whatever the encounter with our experience of service, there is inevitably some experience of, that's not what you saw in a movie, or that's not what we were told, or that is not what actually was unfolding. And this, and even for those who have given perfect service and even given great service, there is, and even those who have done all things right and all things perfect, there is in some way this little tinge, this little moment of betrayal that we encounter. When we encounter the breaking of commandments, we encounter the killing of our brothers and sisters, we encounter inevitably the inherent lies that surround these things, that in some ways we are stripped down to the bare wood of our existence. And that in that encounter, there is this new invitation. I will sing a new song to you, my God. On the 10-stringed lyre I will make music to you, the one who gives victory to kings and who delivers his servant David. The invitation for Veterans Day, the invitation for us, if you have served, and have been a part of the veterans journey and been a part of that, there is a way in which we are invited to sing a new song. If you haven't, and if it is yours to be shoulder to shoulder, elbow to elbow, it is yours, and it is ours to invite them to sing a new song. To not simply stay an old warrior, to not simply stay a veteran, a guy with a hat with a pin on it, is to not simply stay in this place where We are old warriors, but this place where we might be elder warriors, where the wisdom of encountering our mortality, the faith of what it means to encounter great difficulties and overcome it, the raw reality of what it is to face human frailty and human terror, and to bring that back to this world and back to our land and back to society itself, and to sing a new song on a 10-stringed lyre, on the most this was the most kind of beautiful of instruments. This is also the most elaborate of instruments in the ancient world. There's this way that when it says the 10-stringed lyre, it is telling this the most beautiful of stories. And that's not simply to say we're going to sit around and tell war stories, but it's to say we are going to sit around and tell a new story of what might be, of a world in which when one has been hurt and been broken, or been affected in such powerful ways that bears in them wisdom, that bears in them a great opening. You know, it is said that in the American Civil War, post-traumatic stress was described as soldier's heart. That somebody, if they were having what we would call today PTSD, they were said to have a soldier's heart. And the thing about a soldier's heart is it is a broken heart. But the power of a broken heart is that which comes within it also can flow out of it. And it is only that it can flow out into the world, and it can flow out into the beauty, and it can flow out into more things. The great Khalil Gibran, I have all of his collected works right over there. One of the great poets, he wrote this, that the flute that plays the sweetest notes has been most touched by the knife. For those who, the invitation to this Veterans Day is to sing a new song. To not sing of old wounds, and that's not to deny them, that's not to deny, but it is to actually, with the fullness of our being, show up to a world that desperately needs its wisdom, that desperately needs the understanding of what a bad day really looks like, that versus what often gets described as, not enough soy milk in our latte, that to have wisdom and steadiness, and to bring all of that to the service of the world in which we have right now. Because, friends, we desperately need steady hands on the tiller. We desperately need less reaction and more wisdom. We desperately need a new song that is born out of the pain of human tragedy and human struggle and the encounter with battle and the overcoming of it. This is the promise that God has for us, is that there is a new song to sing, and that we are delivered not only the victory of kings, but the victory, his servant David, as he says, that it's the most personal thing in the whole world. When I got back from Iraq, one of the things I did was I took up playing ukulele. I know, it sounds ridiculous, and it is. And anybody who's seen me play ukulele knows it's ridiculous. I'm a big guy. It's a tiny instrument. It looks silly. I'm not unaware of this. But one of the things I heard somebody say, I think it was one of the kind of Jake Shambakuru, who's a great ukulele player. I heard him in an interview say once, it's impossible to play ukulele and have a bad day. And I began to take up the instrument as a way of kind of outwardly trying to live out this inward call of God's invitation of what it is to move from being a warrior to being on the battlefield, to be in its midst, to being that, whatever you want to call it, an elder warrior, or one who embodies that greater wisdom. I think one of the greatest losses of our society, when I think about the Vietnam generation, is that so many of those guys ran for the woods, and I understand why they did. They came back to a world that could not, that refused to receive them, and then many of them were, there was no place for them to stand, and there was no place for them to have a room for a new song. And we as a nation have something to say, to atone for that. But what we lost in their wisdom, what we lost in their ability to serve, what we lost in their and was as tragic as what was lost on the battlefield itself. So I want to end today with a poem for you, because it's one of my very, very favorite poems. Because the other part of Veterans Day is simply the noting, the remembering that there are those among us who understand something of the horrors of war, and that they walk amongst us, and that there are some who have borne struggles and borne difficulties that have been so that have been beyond imagining what many of us could. I remember when I was in Iraq, there was a program to bring back soldiers that had been grievously wounded in theater, and to actually bring them back to theater. Because if you got really hurt, and we were a part of the medical brigade, so we saw, these were our folks that we treated, that if you got really hurt, like you lost limbs, you got blown up, you were severely burned, you were out of the country within a day. That the goal was to get us to one of your hospitals, get you treated, and get you stabilized, and get you on to Landstuhl, Germany, where you could get even better treatment than we could give. So many of those folks left the battlefield almost quicker than they had than they had made phone calls home. They had made a phone call home that night, and they were back in Germany by the next morning if they got hurt that evening. That things were moved so fast, and so there was no opportunity for them to. And psychologically, this kind of messed with them. And so there was this program when I was there, as a part of chaplains, we were part of it, was to bring back some of these wounded warriors, and not that they were going to go on patrols or do kind of anything like that, but to bring them back to some of the places in Iraq that while we were there, and simply to tell their story for those of us that were there, but also to bring them some healing and some grace. And so there were a few of them that came to Baghdad while I was there. And one guy, I'll never forget his story. He says he had been wounded years earlier, and he came and he was there. He had lost, I think, at least one leg, if not both legs. I can't remember, but horribly wounded, life-changing wound. And he talks to us about, he talked about his family for a long time, and he was so angry at them because they couldn't understand. He wanted them so desperately to understand of what his service had been like, what running down the main supply routes and what IEDs were like, what his experience was, and what he had offered them. And they were not unsympathetic, but they simply could not understand. And he became more and more frustrated, and more feeling like he was isolated. And finally he ended up talking to somebody, and it dawned on him. He said that thank God they could not understand that these people that he loved, these people that he desperately wanted to be in connection with, these people that he treasured more than anybody, the people that he went to war for themselves, they could not though they could not fully understand his experience, he came to realize that thank God they couldn't understand it. He would never, because he loved them, would he really want them to know the smell of burning flesh? Would he really want them to know the shock and the trauma of a friend who was with you one day and was gone the next? Would you really want them to know the pain and the struggle and the heat and the sweat and the thing and the pain of terror and loss? He said, no. He realized that his desire for them to know this was perhaps the most selfish thing he'd ever imagined. And that he began that his song changed. He began to sing a new song, which was, thank God they don't know. And if I have to bear this, well, I will bear it. But thank God that they don't have to. And that shift in his ability to return, I could see even in the telling of his story, was one of the most profoundly healing things. And so, while we must help sing a new song, we also have to simply remember and seek to extend our arms and our hands and our ears and our willingness to hear and listen to the stories, even though we cannot understand, and even though, or maybe we can. But what really rolled it for him was their willingness to, even though they couldn't, and his willingness to, and his ability and God's work with him to overcome that and come to the other side of recognizing that wasn't really necessary for him to know his own way home, because he was trying to sing a song that no longer was his to sing, and that in stepping into wisdom, he could step into grace as well. And so this is one of my very favorite poems that I want to leave you with today as we get ready for this Veterans Day weekend. It is by Siegfried Sassoon, who was a poet and was a lieutenant in the English Army in World War I. He is known as one of the wartime poets, and I think this poem encapsulates what it is for those veterans who it is to hear that phrase, "Thank you for your service," but also what it is for a warrior to struggle to find that and hum and pick up the first few bars of that new song. So here it is. It is called Aftermath. Have you forgotten yet? For the world's events have rumbled on since those gagged days, like the traffic checked while at the crossing of city ways. And the haunting gap in your mind has filled with thoughts that flow like clouds in the lit heaven of life. And you're a man reprieved to go, taking your peaceful share of time with joy to spare. But the past is just the same, and war is a bloody game. Have you forgotten yet? Look down and swear by the slain of the war that you'll never forget. Do you remember the dark months you held the sector at Mametz? The nights you watched and wired and dug and piled sandbags on parapets? Do you remember the rats and the stench of corpses rotting in front of the front-line trench? And the dawn coming dirty white and chill with a hopeless rain? Do you ever stop to ask, is it all going to happen again? Do you remember that hour of din before the attack, and the anger, the blind compassion that seized and shook you then as you peered at the doomed and haggard faces of your men? Do you remember the stretcher cases lurching back with dying eyes and lolling heads, those ashen gray masks of lads who once were keen and kind and gay? Have you forgotten yet? Look up and swear by the green of the spring that you'll never forget. However you choose to hold Veterans Day this year, I hope it is meaningful and powerful for you, and that you will, in the song of David, help one in your midst to sing a new song. Peace and grace to you, my friends, and we'll pick it up next week with another 11:11.